Welcome to episode 6 of The Accursed. This is a story you are going to want to listen to from the beginning. If you're just jumping in now, I suggest going back to episode 1 and starting there. This podcast shares some scares and frights. It also delves into adult themes. Specific content warnings are in the show notes of each episode. Please check there so that you can honor yourself and your needs. It's nighttime now, and I don't like recording these at night. It gives me that feeling that I'm being watched or I'm not alone. But there's construction on my street, and it has been way too loud for me to be able to record during the day. So here we are. And I've got another 2 stories for you today. I've actually mentioned this first one before. In episode 2, when I was making a case for why these might be taking place in Appalachia. The crows were cawing, and she could hear them. Aunt Grace could. Staying in the room she was born in the room she would die in. She looked at me the way she always did, like somehow this was my fault, like I was the one who called them here, that I was the reason she was here. Raleigh was gone by then. Uncle Arch, too. Mama was somewhere, but Aunt Grace didn't ask for her, and I didn't push. Despite herself, I was all there was. I was the one who sat with Aunt Grace when her breaths grew shallow, when she coughed and gasped, when she left, or at least tried to. The heat that summer kept breaking into storms, and sometimes when the lightning flashed, I could see Aunt Agnes, still, younger, sitting on the edge of the bed, swinging her legs, watching. Maybe it was the crows, or maybe the thunder just scared her something good, but when I went back to check in on her, Aunt Grace was sitting right up, eyes wide, more alive than I'd seen her in days, just staring out the window as dusk settled in. I wasn't more than 8, she said as her eyes darted to me. She'd already taken to living in times gone by, telling rambling stories to people who weren't even there yet. I didn't believe them. I mean, why should I? I didn't think anyone would hear me whistle. But the very second I did, Rosalie came running down from the house, pulling at my arm, not saying a word to me, but with a look in her eyes fit for the devil. Your mama was always so bossy. But I didn't care even one bit, thinking I knew anything at all. I told her I forgot. But I hadn't. I just figured it was nonsense. For all their talk, there was nothing I could ever see. But then the wind kicked up, something fierce, and those crows. Rosie marched me into the house, shutting the windows and pulling the shades. But it didn't matter. I already saw it. I saw that shadow creep out of the woods and over the fence. I didn't know what I was seeing, not then. It was tall, too tall, with nails like claws. I think it saw me through the glass. I think it saw me right as I saw it, eyes wide and wicked. Mama ran down the stairs, her face ashen, and then there was this howl. It wasn't right. It wasn't human. It broke me, and I started to panic, shaking so bad I could hardly stand. Rosalie held my hand, made her voice sticky sweet, just trying to get me to go down to the cellar with her. Daddy came in with the dogs and a shotgun right after us. I kept telling myself it was the wind, that there was nothing to worry over, that a whole new day would be here before I knew it. Except that sometimes a shadow would pass by the tiny window near the stairs, and there would be this slow, scratching sound on the outside of the house. We waited all night for the quiet to come. Rosalie held my hand until I fell asleep. And once the dawn broke, Daddy went out first. I was sent to my room. I heard them whispering, saying most of the chickens were gone. And then your mama snuck down that night and climbed into my bed. I started to ask her, but her eyes got dark, like a shadow was looking out at me, and she just shook her head no. There's nothing to talk about, she said. Sometimes things never happen. And I nodded, just like I was supposed to. A coughing fit came for Aunt Grace, and I went to fetch her some water. I stood at the sink, listening to her cough, listening to her choke. I stood there until the guilt gnawed at my belly. When I walked back into her room, she had settled down. Her eyes went soft. I could see she'd already slipped back to somewhere else again. The crows were quiet, but that hum rumbled deep. I drew her curtains tight and left them that way. Because some things never happen, even when they do. Even though these stories span Hazel's whole lifetime, it does feel like there are a lot of them from her youth. And I find myself extra intrigued when we get a story that takes place later in her life. Hazel's Aunt Grace is an interesting figure in these stories. I still don't know what to make of her. But I've often wondered what she knew, what she saw, if she saw. And it seems like maybe not much, which has got to feel strange, isolating even in that family. Before this story, I had assumed that Hazel's mother, Rosalie, because now we know her name, was the younger sister. Here it seems pretty clear she's older. I guess that's a good little reminder that we see these people the way Hazel wants us to. Okay, let's get into story number 2, shall we? She had eyes like Gran's, like Mama's, like mine. I saw her that first time in the garden, Gran's garden. I caught a glimpse of her through the window above the sink in the kitchen. I remember standing on the chair helping to snap the beans we would be having for supper. The wind kicked up and my skin started to prickle. No one should have been there. No one was ever there. No one but us. She was grown, whoever she was. Younger than Mama, maybe, but not by much. Her hair was dark and long. Her dress was faded, blue like the sky. She looked like she'd been outside too long. Her feet dirty, her skin dry. The hem of her dress stained with mud. I tried to tell Gran that there was someone in the garden, but she just hurried me off, saying to go help Pop out back as if I was telling a fib. A fortnight or so later, I saw her again, walking the length of the old stone fence. Gran had sent me out to fetch some thyme from the garden. As I started my way back to the house, I saw her. She was throwing something on the ground. Seed, I would guess, by the way the crows followed her, eating up whatever she was leaving behind. The birds got to cawing, and I guess that's what got Gran noticing how long I had been taking. She hollered out the window, calling my name, telling me to get in the house right that instant. I did as I was told, but I kept my eyes on that woman as long as I could, though she seemed not to notice me one bit. The very next morning, Gran sent me out to play. I was curious as a cat and kept drifting closer to the fence. I was sure the crows had eaten whatever the woman had already sown, but I wanted to look. I needed to know. I was halfway down to the lake when I saw it. Just a sparkle out of the corner of my eye, laying right where the stone met the earth. I grabbed it without even looking and put it in my pocket, hoping no one was watching. I'd honestly forgotten about it until it hit the floor as I changed into my night clothes. I found it under the bed. A small red teardrop pendant. It was a stone like a ruby on a thin gold necklace. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. A treasure of my very own. I shoved it into my pillowcase as soon as Gran and Pop came to say goodnight. I knew without knowing I had to keep it a secret. Knew without knowing that if anyone saw what I had, they'd take it away. Gran stayed with me a good long while that night, brushing my hair and telling me stories of Mama and Aunt Grace getting up to mischief when they were small like me. It wasn't until she tucked me in and turned the lights out that I felt my skin prickle again. A radio crackled and played softly from somewhere else, somewhere far. I wanted to close my eyes tight until the morning, but I couldn't seem to make them stay shut. At the foot of my bed, cloaked in the shadow cast by the moon, the woman, her eyes, our eyes, seeing me as she hadn't before. I startled at the sight of her. I tried to sit up, but my body froze under the weight of her stare, and a low growl rolled from her chest. She spoke my name, letting me know I was not foreign to her. Hazel, 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 over and over again, venom in her voice. My skin burned and my eyes grew heavy. Sleep came for me that night, whether I wanted it to or not. She was still there in the morning, crouching, hands reaching out to me. The necklace remained hidden in my pillowcase. I reached my hand in to feel it, and she grabbed my ankle, sending the chill of death through me. Then she began to wail, a sound that twisted through my guts, stopping only when Gran came in to wake me. The lights flickered, and Gran gave me a puzzled look. She felt my forehead and said I had a fever, that I needed to stay in bed. I tried to tell her I was fine, but she hushed me up, telling me not to give her any guff. 3 days went by as I tossed and turned in my little bed, the fever gripping me. Gran brought me broth and porridge, though I wanted nothing of it. The woman stayed at the foot of my bed, gnashing her teeth and calling my name. Sometimes she would rake her nails, long and dirty, against the wall, making me cough and gasp for breath. On the 4th day, Gran had to go to town. She told me to stay put and holler for Pop if I needed anything, but Pop was out in the shed and couldn't hear me if he wanted to. The world spun as I stood, but I did my best to steady myself as I made my way to the door. I had taken the necklace from the pillowcase and slipped my coat over my nightgown as I crept out into the yard. I could hear Pop's radio in the distance and tried to focus on that. Focus on anything other than the pain in my chest and head. I walked towards the fence, trying to make quick work of it all. She watched, the woman. I knew it in my blood, though I couldn't see her at first, but her cry rattled the trees and brought a shimmer that almost made me fall to my knees. But it wasn't until I took the necklace from my jacket pocket that she let me see her again. She reached for me, trying to snatch the pendant, but her hand moved through me instead, and the world turned twisted right in front of my eyes. Before I could even catch myself, I fell to the ground. I woke to Gran shaking me, calling my name over and over. I could feel her panic before I could even hear her voice. When my eyes opened, she reached for my hand and took the pendant as if she knew it was there. Without a word to me, she threw it over the fence, into the woods. Gran wrapped her arm around me as we walked back to the house. I turned once and saw her, the woman, behind the fence, in the woods, looking more ragged, more feral than I had ever seen her. Her dress was now frayed and torn, her eyes wild, and her skin sallow. She thrashed against the wind, but her voice made no sound at all. A hum rose from a place I did not want to know, and the world around me began to dim again. Gran just rushed me inside, shutting the door tight, drawing the curtains closed. She put me back to bed and sat with me for some time. She looked like she wanted to say something, tell me something, but she just kissed my forehead and told me to rest up. The days came and went. My fever broke and I felt well. But the woman stayed as she was, angry, aching, tucked into the trees until the next new moon, when the night took her away for good. These two stories feel connected to me. Beyond both of them taking place at the homestead or even Hazel and Aunt Grace both being sick. It's the intrusion, how something is there that perhaps shouldn't be. Something from those woods. Gran died relatively early in Hazel's life. I wonder often enough. I wonder if she'd been alive longer. What would Hazel have learned about her family? About herself? What would her grandmother have told her? If she would have told her anything. I wonder what these stories would look like then. Would she see the adults in her life differently? Would she see everything differently? Or maybe there's no story, no explanation that could do that for her. Not when this is the life you're leading. Gran seems stable, normal, I guess, at least in Hazel's eyes. Is that because she was, or is that just the way Hazel perceived her? What happened to make her more okay than some of the others? What did she know that maybe Hazel's mother didn't? Those are my wonderings for the evening. If you have any wonderings of your own that you'd like to share, you are welcome to email me at JoAnna@theaccursed.com. Thanks for listening, and see you next week. The Accursed is written, created, and all around conjured by me, Anna Dane. You can find out more about the show at theaccursed.com or on Instagram at The Accursed Podcast. You can find out more about me at JoAnna Dane. The intro and outro song, Cathedral, is provided by Moby Gratis. Want an extra bonus story? Sign up for our mailing list at theaccursed.com and one will be delivered right to your inbox. If you like the show, there are 2 ways you can help us out. First, please consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you happen to listen. Second, share us with other folks in your world who might also love a ghost story. Thanks again for listening. Bye.